got together and we talked about this show. Keeping in mind that this is the last overflow before everybody votes here in America, and so we decided to do something. We want to ask the question or answer the question: why vote, especially when our vote doesn't count? In air quotes. I'm not going to do air quotes because that's irritating to me. So I'm pretty sure it's irritating to all of you. But I want to answer that question by telling you why I vote. You know, many of you, you're joining us, and this might be the first place you've met us on Overflow. So Philville and I talking politics is really nothing new to you. It's probably your norm. But for those who have known us over 10 years at least, you're probably surprised, when you first tuned in, like, wow, you said they're talking about politics? Because we've all been told, right? You don't talk about politics, in public and all that. You all heard my spiel about, they don't want us to talk about it in public or in private. So when are we supposed to talk about it? But we were determined to talk about everything, including politics on this show. And because we're in an election, this is why we're addressing this matter. I've always had a sense for politics. I think it's my admiration for leadership. I still remember hearing President Reagan turning over to the leader of the Soviet Union back then, Gorbachev, and said, "Gorbachev, tear this wall down," and I was just thinking, like, man, my boy's a boss, and just telling this other leader to tear the wall down. And then I still remember, a kid, in my family's living room, and I saw like the coolest guy in the world playing the saxophone on Arsenio Hall, and with a pair of glasses on, sunglasses. And I found out he's the president of the United States at that time. And I'm like, man, I'm with dude right there. So when I found out that he was the leader of the Democrat Party, well, at that moment, of course, I'm Democrat. I'm with that guy, And then I grew up. Then I started joining, different things, and I started gangbanging and all that. I started running the streets, like many of you know. And many of you know that decision was very costly for me. But it was not a complete loss, because losing my sight actually gave me a whole nother sight that has impacted profoundly, not just mine, but others' lives as well. And I'm so thankful for God for this new sight that I have, So, I started following God, and that changed my whole perception of leadership again. I started to see that, man, leadership is not just telling people what to do. It's not just telling people tear down the wall, and it's not just putting a pair of glasses and being cool and all of that. In fact, I started doing something that I really didn't do when I saw leaders. I paid attention. And when I started doing that, my admire fire for the coolest president in the history of the world quickly turned cold, and I was no longer a Democrat. Now, don't get me wrong. I didn't suddenly become a flaming Republican. In fact, I'm registered as neither. When Maria asked me, "Loto, what do you want me to write down for your party affiliation on the voter registration?" I told her to write down God-dependent conservative. Now, I know conservative, they try to make that word taboo, and it's old-fashioned and it's old school. Well, let me ask you something. How's your new school working for you now? How's the new fashion working for you? How's those gas prices? How's that inflation working out for you? Old school's not too bad. Old fashioned's not too bad. I don't remember the world being this crazy when I was little. So maybe we need to get back to some of those things. But anyways, I started paying attention, and my heart began to change when it came to certain world views. So why am I going to vote this year? Why do I vote? Because if I don't vote, they're going to vote for me. There's a lot of talk about election shenanigans going on, and are they cheating and this and that. Well, you know what? I'm going to throw my vote in because I'm not going to make it easier for them if that's exactly what they're doing. However, I'm going to put my vote down so I can use my voice to speak even against another vote that stands against my values. Why do I vote? I vote because it's my responsibility to vote. And I do not base my responsibilities on what other people do or don't. Regardless of people voting or not, that does not take away my responsibility to do so myself. I vote because it's my responsibility to vote. Why do I vote? I vote because the people behind me. Many of you know my story about my mom and dad bringing us here to the States for a better life, for education. I owe it to them. So when I vote, it's my way of also saying, thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. And it's also a way for me to thank all the heroes who laid down their lives so that I can have this right to do so. And why do I vote? I vote because of them, the ones in the front of me, my children and their children. I vote because when I get my turn to say or have my say about the future and the world that my kids are going to live in and their kids, you better believe I'm going to take full advantage of doing so. On behalf of Philville and Overflow EXT, we want to challenge you to get out there and practice your right and vote